It's time for the Brouhaha Sports Show. Brouhaha Sports with award-winning sports writer Dale McKee and co-host Marshall Wood. Talking sports with the legends of the game and famous sports personalities. Brouhaha! Now to Marshall and Dale with tonight's guest.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's Brouhaha. Dale and I are ready to go one more time. Dale, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Well, I tell you what, I'm in good shape for an old wore-out kind of fella.
Yeah.
I'm doing real good, thank you kindly. I'm glad to be here and talk a little sports tonight. Let's just go ahead and tell us right off the bat, who's our guest tonight?
Well, we're going to hopefully talk to Bailey Howell, ex-Mississippi State basketball player, former NBA player, played with the great Boston Celtics teams of the day. And so we're going to kind of talk with him, talk a little basketball, maybe talking about his days playing against Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Jerry West, and all those names that we've always heard of. And they were in our youth, and you know, he was an All-American at Mississippi State.
Yeah.
And Bill Russell, really wanted him on his team because he played for some other teams, and they got him, I think, from Baltimore back in the day. Baltimore had a team. So I think it's going to be an interesting conversation. So you want to start it here pretty soon?
Oh, yeah, we'll start pretty soon, but I mean, we can go ahead and talk about a couple of other things. Why not? Interesting little, you talk about Mississippi State, and I'm thinking about Malik Heath.
Yeah.
That name ring a bell to you?
Cowbell man.
Yeah, you jumped all over that. I knew you would. See, and that's with no prep. That's with no discussion. I mean, I just throw it out there, and man, you just knocked it right out of the park. You right on it. He transferred to Ole Miss, right?
Yeah.
He's been a pretty big name in Starkville for a while.
I think, yeah.
And he goes up there. He comes up to Ole Miss, and he's hating on the Cowbells, isn't he?
Yeah, that's kind of he's going to have to play there one more time.
Do they play at?
No, they play at Ole Miss this year, but
yeah.
the following year he'd probably have to play.
Yeah.
So that'd be a good.
So he's got 2 left.
I think he does.
Yeah.
I think he's got 2 years left.
Yeah.
Because everybody got a free one during the pandemic.
Well, that's true.
So
I got a free one too, didn't you?
kinda.
Yeah.
I guess.
I just thought that was pretty interesting. Just hitting on some little hot spots here as we go along. You ever watched the show Yellowstone?
No, I haven't. But
Yeah.
I've heard a lot about it.
Yeah.
And right now, with my schedule like it is, I just can't get into these things right
Yeah.
now. I'm a 30-minute guy, hour man at the most.
Yeah.
And
Well, it only lasts an hour an episode, Dale.
oh, does it?
You can watch it once a week,
Okay.
and you can record it.
Well, what channel does it come on?
I don't have a clue. I just flip down and there's Yellowstone. I hit play.
How many seasons has it been on?
I don't have a clue, but I ain't missed a one. I got other stuff that fills this random access memory of mine.
I got you.
And my random access memory has room for as much stuff as it used to do. That's where everything processes in your random access. You got to reach down deep to get that information out of there if it's in your hard drive. So I don't keep those types of things in my RAM because I run out of space.
I don't want to embarrass you by any means.
Oh, please, and trust me, if you don't, I will.
Okay. But you're the smartest man I know.
Boy, you must not know anybody. I thought you knew lots of folks. Been writing sports for half a century almost, and I figured you knew some smart folks. I'm a smart aleck.
Well, no, sports guys are not that smart.
No.
They watch what they tell you.
But I impressed you with that random access memory type stuff. So you talk throw a little computer jargon. Don't matter if you know what it means.
Hey, it went right over my head. Man. Right over my head.
But what I was getting about with the Yellowstone thing, and you don't know this, but a lot of our listeners will, because a lot of folks watch that show and they like it. There's a character on there named Rip. And Rip seems to be one of the most favorite characters. He's a tough guy. He'll kill you for quick and get ready. And he's got a son that Mississippi State has, not the character Rip from the show, but the guy who plays Rip has a son that's been offered a scholarship at Mississippi State. So for our Yellowstone fans out there and our Mississippi State fans out there, that could be a pretty neat deal for you if you can get him
Well, I met one Rip in my life. He was my Sunday school teacher one time,
Oh yeah.
and they called him Rip for a reason.
Well, oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh well.
he probably ripped you there.
Well, they call this guy Rip, I think, because it's short for rest in peace, because everybody he meets usually dies. But we're not going to get into that. But I tell you what we are going to get into. We're going to take a break to hear from our sponsor, and then Dale and I are going to be back with none other than Bailey Howell right after the break, folks. We'll see you in a minute.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Hey, Mr. Howell, this is Dale McKee again down in the Waynesboro, Laurel area, and we appreciate you coming on our show today and talking about a little basketball. I have a partner in crime with me named Marshall Wood.
Hello, Mr. Howell. Thank you for being with us today.
Well, listen, I've heard a story of how you might got to Mississippi State. I heard
what's that?
Well, Kermit Davis, he recommended you to Babe McCarthy, and told him that, he just told him, he said, well, Bailey Howell's the best player I ever played against in high school, and they said that you also had an offer maybe from Tennessee and maybe Memphis, I'm not sure, or Ole Miss. And tell us about that story about how you got to Mississippi State.
Well, actually, Kermit was the first recruit that Babe McCarthy signed when he took the job at Mississippi State as their head basketball coach. And he was a traveling salesman and was sort of, not very close to basketball at that time, even though he had coached basketball back in previous years. He coached the junior high team and also a high school team at Baldwin, Mississippi. And so when he signed Kermit, and Kermit's team at Walnut High School had won the state championship, and after they won their class, then they played in the Grand Slam. At that time, Mississippi had 4 levels of sports teams: A, Double A, Triple A, and 4A, and Walnut had won not only their class, but they won the Grand Slam as well. And Kermit was their leading player. Babe had signed him. He asked Kermit, did he know any big guys that he would recommend? And Kermit told him that, well, right over the line at Middleton, Tennessee, very close to Walnut, only 8 miles away from Walnut, I was graduating as well. We were classmates. We were seniors at the same time. Although Walnut and Middleton didn't play each other because in the past there had been some bad blood between the two schools, and so they chose not to play each other anymore because of the intense rivalry. And so anyway, I was considering University of Tennessee, and also Memphis State had a very good program at that time. Most people thought I should go to Kentucky. Kentucky's assistant basketball coach, he'd been with Rupp a long time, Harry Lancaster, came to see me play. He met my parents. He said they were offering me a scholarship, and that when he got back to Kentucky, when he got back to Lexington, he would write a letter making an official offer, which he did. Of course, I saved the letter, but I decided I wasn't going to Kentucky. But that's how they recruited sort of back then. With the exception of Babe McCarthy, he probably came to see me more often than all the other coaches put together.
Is that what did it for you?
Well, yeah, he brought his wife, and he had two young boys, to my home, and met my parents, and he also sent a Major League Baseball player that he had coached in his service. He coached basketball in the service Babe had, and this fella, he was from Corinth, Mississippi, only 30 miles away, but a Major League Baseball player for the St. Louis Cardinals. He sent him by, to kind of vouch for Babe and so on. So he was pretty much ahead of his time in recruiting, I would say. At least he worked harder at it, it seemed to, than the other coaches.
Well, tell us about your time at Mississippi State. Did y'all have some good success when you were playing down there?
Well, our senior year, we won the SEC championship.
Well, that's good success. That's good success. That was a dumb question by me. I apologize.
That was the first time that I think Mississippi State had won the Southeastern Conference Championship. My sophomore year, of course, we could only play 3 seasons. At that time, as a freshman, you had to play on the freshman team. And so anyway, my sophomore year, we beat Kentucky. First time ever, I guess, that Mississippi State basketball team had ever beaten Kentucky. And we also beat them my senior year, so...
Wow.
Pretty impressive.
Our record my senior year was 24-1.
Ooh,
And,
Well, do you remember who the one loss was, too?
it was against Auburn.
Okay.
The Sugar Bowl used to have a basketball tournament in connection with the Sugar Bowl football.
The football game?
Was on,
Yeah.
Sugar Bowl. I guess it was played on Christmas, on New Year's Day, but between Christmas and New Year's, they had a Sugar Bowl basketball tournament, and we won that. Beating Maryland and Memphis State, I think, and we then traveled to Auburn. We were in cars at that time, and we'd been on the road for about a week or more, and we just didn't perform very well against Auburn, and they had a good club, and they beat us. And, so we started the SEC season with a loss, but we won the rest of the games and finished 24-1, and was ranked 3rd in the nation when the season was over, my senior year.
But now, you guys, unfortunately, during that time period, you weren't allowed to go to the NCAA tournament. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. At that time, the SEC got a bye the first round, so you only had to win 2 games, and you were in the Final Four. It wasn't a 64-team tournament at that time. And we not only were the best team in the SEC, but we were the best team in all of the southeastern region of the United States. And the politicians wouldn't agree to let us go play, and it was a terrible disappointment and a stupid thing on their part. Mississippi State, I think, with Babe's ability to recruit and coach as well, Mississippi State could have been an elite basketball program of the likes of Kansas and Duke and North Carolina and people like that. It was wide open for us to be a great team every year in the South, but when they refused to let us go, that kind of put a damper on everything, although our team the next year was sort of a rebuilding year, but then Mississippi State either won or tied the championship the next 3 years, and that's that year of '64, I think it was. They went to the tournament anyway, and so I think Mississippi State missed a real opportunity to become a national basketball power.
Well, those are some great memories, sir, for sure. Well, listen, okay, what was your next stop after Mississippi State?
Well, I was considering playing AAU ball, which they had a real strong AAU league. You worked for a company, they trained you for a lifetime job in the company, and you played about a 50-game schedule. And the winning team each Olympic year got to represent the United States. They had to put 5 players on the Olympic team. And I was considering that, and also considering pro ball, but I ended up signing a pro contract with the Detroit Pistons, and so in the next 12 years I was in the NBA.
All right, well, listen, did they draft back in those days like they do now, draft players, or did you just sign?
What's that?
Did you, back in the day when you were coming out of college, did the NBA have a players draft like they do now? Or did they?
Yes,
Okay.
Right, they did.
Okay.
I was drafted second. A guy named Bob Boozer that played, I think, at Kansas or somewhere, Oklahoma, out in that area. They drafted him first. Cincinnati did. Actually, Cincinnati had visited with me, and they said they wanted to draft me as their first. They had the first draft choice. But when I told them what I needed to have to play, or I was going to play AAU ball, they said, we can't pay you that much. So a trade was made with the Pistons to give Pistons an opportunity to draft me. So Cincinnati took Bob Boozer, and then the Pistons chose me as their first pick, and the rest is history, I guess you'd say.
Well, now, okay, you played at Detroit for I assume a few years. Then where did you go?
5 years. I was with the Pistons for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
In the Pistons and the Baltimore Bullets, which is now actually the Washington team, they just about traded teams. There was, I think, 11 or 12 players involved in that trade, and I ended up with a lot of my Detroit teammates in Baltimore, and I was there for 2 years, and then I was traded into Boston, where I spent the next 4 years.
So how many championships did you get to be part of in Boston?
2.
2? Okay.
My first year in Boston, Boston had won 8 championships in a row. But Red Auerbach, their coach, retired that spring when they won their 8th in a row. And so then he was the general manager as well of the team. And he called Bill Russell in and said, Russ, we've got to name a new coach, but we have to name somebody that you'll be willing to play for. And so he asked Russ who he would play for. Russ said, well, I'll play for Frank Ramsey, who was the teammate of the Celtics, but had been retired for 2 or 3 years. But they offered the job to Ramsey, and he turned them down, so they named Bill the player coach. So Russell was the player coach then for the next 3 years. And my first year we lost. I was, maybe the kiss of death or something. But then we turned around the next 2 years and won it.
Okay.
And then Russell and Sam Jones retired the same year, and they were 2 of the all-timers. And so my last year in Boston wasn't that successful.
Well, listen, let me ask you something. During that heyday, I was a young teenager when you guys were, the Celtics were in their heyday, and I just remember the Lakers with Jerry West and Elgin Baylor, and of course Wilt Chamberlain. I know he swapped teams 2 or 3 times. He was in Philadelphia and San Francisco and L.A. What was it like playing for the Celtics? Was there a lot of pressure to win? They expect you to win?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Everywhere you played, it was pressure to win, but the Celtics knew how to do it. They had a great, they had, outstanding players. Bill Russell, really, I consider as the most valuable player that's ever walked on the court. In 13 seasons, he played on 11 World Championship teams.
Wow.
So it's hard to argue that he wasn't
Oh, most definitely.
the most valuable player of all time.
Well, listen, what was it like playing against, say, a Wilt Chamberlain?
Well, Wilt was 7'3". He claimed he was only 7'1" and 1/16. Wilt had his problems in that he wanted to prove that he was a great basketball player because he was a great athlete, not because he was 7'3". And so he had a little hang up about his height. So instead of playing the game as a big guy dominating everybody, he played sort of like his favorite shot was a fall away jump shot, falling away from the basket. Most people falling away from the basket and shooting or doing that so they can get the shot off, so it won't be blocked. But he's not going to get any shot blocked as big as he was. But yet very often, very rarely, he turned to the basket and just destroy everybody in his path and dunk it, which he could have done. He never fouled out of a game, so he didn't play that aggressive.
Yeah.
But then when he was played into L.A., And L.A. named, after he'd been there a year, I think, maybe two, L.A. hired Bill Sharman, who had played with the Boston Celtics for his career. And he got Wilt to play like he should have been playing all of the years before then, previous. So Wilt would grab the defensive rebound and throw it out. He used to hold it because he wanted to be a part of the offense. So he would get the rebound and hold it, and you didn't have to worry about your man running down and getting an easy basket because Wilt was holding the ball, and he would give it to one of the guards, and he'd trot back down the court and set up, and the offense had to go through him. but when he finally started playing like he should have, he would throw the outlet pass to somebody sneaking out early or somebody in a position to start the break. And they won 30-something games in a row.
Yeah. I remember that team.
Year.
I think they won about 70 games that year or something. Hey, did you ever play against Lou Alcindor?
Oh, yeah. He came in the league 2 or 3 years before I retired.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, Mr. Howell, we really appreciate your time. Are you still living in the Starkville area?
Yes,
Okay. Well, listen, you have just treated us to a great show. We just really appreciate all your memories and just what a fantastic person you are besides being a great basketball player. And we really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Howell.
The pro sports, the opportunity to play a professional sport is you're sort of in fairyland. It's not the real world.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, you've done it proud, and you've done Mississippi proud, and Mr. Howell, I'm the timekeeper, so I've got to say goodbye. But listen, again, we thank you so much for taking time to be with us tonight, and we appreciate it. Thank you kindly.
Okay. Well, good luck on your show.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, folks, we're going to take a break. That was a lot of fun, Dale. We'll talk about that when we get back. We're going to take a break.
Goodness. And I learned a lot from that man.
We'll take a break here from our sponsors, and we'll be right back with more of the Brouhaha in just a second.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Welcome back, everybody. Bailey Howell. You know, I want to give a shout out to one of our compatriots around town, one of the broadcast guys, Mr. K-Dog Kenny Odom, big Mississippi State guy, and he hit us up. He hit me up early on and said, "You want to have a good show? Get Bailey Howell on there." Well, Dale, we can just say, in your face, Kenny, there's Bailey Howell. What a treat.
Oh, he was fantastic. I love those stories, didn't you?
Man, I had no idea, some of those things. I mean, they were driving in their cars to play SEC basketball, He played against Wilt Chamberlain. He played against, Lou Alcindor. Who did he play with?
Bill Russ, the GOAT.
You talk about, everybody talks about Michael Jordan, who's the greatest of all time, and they always say he's got 6 rings. Well, how many did
11.
Yeah. He had 11.
He had one on his toe.
Yeah. I mean, Bill Walton. Plus, he was coaching while he was playing too. I mean, how crazy is that?
Yeah.
Man, what a treat! What a treat!
No, I just love the interview. I just love those stories of the older days too. I'm it brings back memories too. I just remember watching NBA basketball on a small black and white television.
Yeah.
It just went real small, and I wish I could have seen the guys that played in that era, in this era on TV, like a Jerry West or
Was Havlicek on his team?
Yeah, he probably was. You know, he was the sixth man there, probably around 69. And evidently Bailey probably, I think Russell retired in 68 or 69. And, you know, Celtics went a little swan. Then they drafted a guy out of Florida State named David Cowens. He was about a 6'10" kid. And they got back to winning. Havlicek and them were on that team.
Yeah.
You know, Havlicek he made you think basketball was very simple because he made every shot. You didn't make a little layup. I'm thinking, I'm watching TV, well, I can do that.
Anybody can do that.
Shot, you know, and I'm thinking, why can't I do that, you know? He was just, he was just outstanding. That was a great interview.
High school basketball players, they'd go to school a while, then they'd stop school and pick cotton for a while, and then they'd go back to school for a while. Didn't you say that?
Yeah. And I remember my dad said that, you know, they started usually school after Labor Day in Wayne County.
Yeah.
And then they'd get out about the 1st of April so they could go to the fields and work. So, but they had to go do the cotton fields.
I mean, I've been to Middleton a couple of times. Yeah, I've done some business with some folks up there in that area through the years, and it's a nice spot. You get up in that area, it's pretty up there. Nice place. Well, listen, folks, there you did it again. We enjoyed that very much, and but our time has come to an end. So, Dale, I want to remind you that you can follow us during the week on our Facebook page at the Brouhaha. But you know, you can also go back to our YouTube channel at the Brouhaha, and you can see all the shows that we've done. You know, I mean, I guess how many you think we got up there, Dale? You counted them the other day?
Well, we're getting close to 52, aren't we?
Yeah, that's right. We've been at it a year.
Because we've had this show 1 year, so
Yeah.
we're getting on our anniversary. What you gonna give me for our anniversary?
You just wait. You're going to be shocked.
I hope so.
But anyway, that's going to do it for tonight. We're going to ask you to be back with us next week. Same Brouhaha time, same Brouhaha channel. But for now, for Bailey Howell and myself and Dale is going to tell us what time it is, because it's time to say goodbye, Dale.
Goodbye, Dale.
See you next week for more of the Brouhaha. Take us out of here, Jamie.
You've been listening to the Brouhaha with Dale McKee and Marshall Wood. Heard Tuesday evening, 6 p.m. on WABO. For more of the Brouhaha, follow us during the week on Facebook and WABO.